Hello, good morning. Happy Monday, everyone, and happy Labor Day. I'm guessing that a lot of you probably won't even see this on Monday. And I went back and I confirmed with the fall schedule that we have this semester to see if we only had 3 lessons this week or seeing if I needed to prepare 3 or 4 videos. And it looks like we still have 4 lessons this week, so lucky you and lucky me. And seriously lucky us simply because these lessons this week in this part of Alma are phenomenal. I love them and super grateful for them. And so to introduce the lesson today, we have Alma 33, 34, and 35. Oh, and by the way, you might notice my surroundings are a little bit different. I'm down by Disneyland. You can't see it. I'm on the south side and Disneyland is just north of me. There's a pool, which I really want to get into, but it's Sunday, so got to keep this out day holy. And plus, it's way too hot anyways. So I wanted to introduce today's lesson by going and into Alma chapter 33. I won't even touch on the amazing chapter 34. I'll let you do that yourself and let the Spirit be your guide, and obviously the lesson plan too. But I want you to think about whenever you write a talk, what are some of the things you include? You obviously include the topic, whatever you're going to talk about. You include, maybe some scriptures that go along with it, and maybe hopefully a story from your own personal life. But you more than likely will probably quote one of the brethren or probably the prophet himself. And so, did you know that also happens in the scriptures pretty regularly? Nephi in particular loves quoting Isaiah along with a few others. So here, in Alma chapter 33, if you don't remember, I'll give you a little refresher. This is Alma, and he is speaking with the poor class of people who were kicked out of their synagogues because of the wealthy Zoramites. And so he's already taught them about faith, and now he's going to teach them a little bit about how to worship. So if you jump into Alma 33, in verse 1, it's like and it came to pass, Alma was speaking these words, and he went and he asked to be sent abroad in or among the congregation, like, are they agreeing with me or are they not? And a question came back. And then here in verse 2, he says, "Behold, ye have said that ye could not worship your God, because ye are cast out of your synagogues. But behold, I say unto you, if ye suppose that ye cannot worship God, ye do greatly err. For ye ought to search the scriptures." And so I love how he's like, hey, if you guys have questions, if you want to, try to figure out the truth, you don't need to turn to me all the time. It's not the worst thing in the world, and it's definitely an option, but you can turn to the scriptures yourselves. You guys can study, you guys can read, and you can find answers, and God will help you. And he goes and he says in verse 3, "Do you remember to have read what Zenos, the prophet of old, has said concerning prayer or worship?" So he's like, hey, I'm going to quote Zenos. You might look to me as the prophet, and I might be the prophet today, but let's turn to the scriptures. Let's turn to the book of Zenos, which we don't have. And it just kind of goes to show how many scriptures we don't have yet, but ultimately we will. When all is revealed and as the restoration of the gospel continues to occur. And he says, yeah, let's turn to the book of Zenos. And he's probably like, all right, chapter 5, verse 3. And he says, "For thou art merciful, O God, for thou hast heard my prayer, even when I was in the wilderness. Yea, thou wast merciful when I prayed concerning those who are mine enemies, and thou didst turn them to me." Because remember, their question is, we're kicked out of our synagogues, can we still worship God? And he's turning right to the scriptures, and he's like, no, look, he was in the wilderness when he prayed. You don't have to be in a synagogue. And then listen, in verse 5, "Yea, O God, and thou wast merciful unto me when I did cry unto thee in my field." So you can also pray in your fields. "When I did cry unto thee in my prayer, and thou didst hear me." In verse 6, "And again, O God, when I did turn to my house, thou didst hear me in my prayer." And in verse 7, "And when I did turn unto thee in my closet, O Lord, and prayed unto thee, thou didst hear me." So it doesn't matter where you pray. It doesn't matter where you worship. Here, Zena said his house, his closet, his field in the wilderness, and God always heard him. And so he turned to the scriptures, and you'll do this a lot on your missions. You'll turn to the scriptures to answer prayers. And then I love, and again, he doesn't just quote Zenos, but another prophet named Enoch in verse 13. One of their other questions was about the Son of God, because the Zoramites didn't believe in a God, or in a Son of God. They didn't believe in that a Savior would come. And so then he turns and is like, and the prophet Enoch wrote, "Thou art angry, O Lord, with this people, because they will not understand thy mercies, which thou hast bestowed upon them because of thy Son." And so I love this small example of how the prophet Alma, he himself, now we have chapters of scriptures because of Alma and his teachings and his faith and his actions and his words. But just because he was that awesome doesn't mean that he also didn't turn to the scriptures and use them in his teachings. So I want to ask you, this is the question for the day. What was your favorite talk from this most recent conference, and why? So let me know, and we'll see you tomorrow.